Paris is one of the most sought out destinations in the entire world. And did you know France is actually the most visited country in the world? So you cannot visit Paris without watching this video first. Transport between the airport Charles de Gaulle and your hotel. There are 4 ways to get to your hotel from the airport. You can take a private transportation that you book ahead of time. If you do this, then they will wait right outside a baggage claim with your name. Super easy, but that's probably one of the most expensive ways to get to your hotel. Taxis. What's really important to know about taxis is that there can be a lot of scammers trying to get you to book a taxi. One thing to note is that anyone inside the airport or the train station asking you if you want to take a taxi will be a scammer and will charge you way too much money. One thing to know once you arrive in Charles de Gaulle Airport is to follow the signs to the taxis. So just follow the signs, you will go outside, and then there will be a curbside with a bunch of taxis. You'll know that it's an appropriate taxi if they have the sign taxi on top of the car. Just to reiterate, always go outside following the signs and you'll be in the right place. There's also Uber or other ride shares. I believe Europe uses Bolt, and Uber is very prominent in Paris, so follow the signs to ride share. They will pick you up right outside on the curb, and that's a really reliable way to get to the city center. And the last option to get from Charles de Gaulle to the city center is by using the train system. This is how I usually get to the city center because it's very affordable, but it's a little bit tricky, so listen up. To get to the city center, you want to book the train that's called RERB. That is the only way to use the trains to get to the city center. How you're going to get this ticket, you'll find the kiosk and they'll be like yellowish. You will purchase the RERB ticket and you'll have to find the RERB signs, follow the signs, and then scan your ticket to get into the train platform. You can book a one-way or a round trip, but also before you get on this train to go to the city center, I highly recommend that you buy the Navigo Easy Pass. This will allow you to put money on this card and to use it for public transport all around Paris. Just to be more specific, the Navigo Easy Pass is actually only for Paris, but they share this app called like the French Transport System app. I'll put a picture here. I'm not exactly sure what it's called at the moment on the top of my head, but you can import your Navigo Easy Pass on the app and book trains throughout France on this app. So I highly recommend, even if you're just visiting Paris or going to other parts of France, this is a wonderful app to use for booking trains and your other transport. If you're wanting to book your Navigo Easy Pass at the Charles de Gaulle Airport, which I highly would recommend just in case you need to use it just between to get to your hotel, you want to go to the information desk and talk to a person. This is the only way that you can get the actual Navigo Easy card. And then you tell them how much money you want to put on the card, and then you can use that for public transport within Paris. You cannot use this to get from the airport to Paris. You have to buy that RERB ticket. You can buy both the RERB ticket and the Navigo Easy Pass with that person if you don't want to make 2 stops, one at the little kiosk and one at the person. The RERB train will take you to several stops in the city center of Paris or along Paris, so definitely look ahead of time at what stop you need to do. You can do this by going online or on one of your transport apps, clicking Charles de Gaulle Airport to your hotel, and it'll tell you what stop to take. A lot of the Paris public transport, I believe you can use a credit card, like one of those credit cards that allow you to tap and scan, but I highly recommend getting that Navigo Easy Pass. Me, just personally, I think it's safer so you don't have to whip out your credit card. That gives someone else the opportunity to take it, or if you drop it on the floor, someone can take it. So day by day, you can upload how much money you think you would need on that card by using the app and get through Paris that way. This will let you access on the buses, the metro, and some of the trains. Some credit cards will charge a fee to use your card in a foreign country. Unless you have a credit card that specifically says no foreign transaction fees, then you'll be paying even extra to use your card for the public transport. Once you put the money on the Navigo Easy card, you cannot reimburse that money back to your card. So just do small amounts at a time that you know you will be using. I actually went a little bit over the last time I went to Paris, and I think it was only about $2, so make sure you don't put a big lump sum on that card right away. Do not rent a car while you're in Paris. It's so confusing to drive. You drive on the same side of the road as the US, but you'll be paying a lot for parking. The roads are very confusing, and public transport is super easy, so do not rent a car. Let's talk about pickpocketers. Paris is one of the most visited cities, like I said earlier, and it's very prominent with pickpocketers and scammers. The most common places that you'll see pickpocketers and scammers are large tourist areas, such as the metros, the Louvre, Montmartre, really high tourist areas by the Eiffel Tower. Pay attention and expect to see pickpocketers. Some really easy tips that you can use to avoid getting pickpocketed is to keep your bags in front of you. So if you're wearing a backpack, just put it on in front of you. Keep your crossbody purses in front of you as well. Don't have one of those handbags that can easily be stolen. If you just like to carry your phone or a wallet around, make sure they're in the front pocket of your jeans and not in the back. Do not leave your phones on tables at cafes. Someone can swipe it real easy. And also do not fall for these scammers where they ask you to fill out a survey for a special cause, and then you give them a few euros for the special cause. That's totally a scam, and it's not going to be, your money's not going to a good cause, so avoid that. Another tip I think is really important, especially in the summer, is that if you want to see the Eiffel Tower sparkle, you will have to wait quite a bit. Once the sun sets in Paris, the next hour they will turn on the Eiffel Tower lights. But if it's still a little bit twilight, they will not allow the Eiffel Tower to sparkle. They do this in order to save energy until it's completely black. So in the summer, you may not even see the Eiffel Tower sparkle until 11 p.m. And 11 p.m. is actually the time that they turn off the Eiffel Tower lights. So for instance, in the summer, sometimes the sun won't even set till like 10. And then on that 10 o'clock hour, it's still a little bit twilight, so they won't allow the Eiffel Tower to sparkle, but the lights will be on. And then the next hour, by 11, it will be fully black. They will let the Eiffel Tower sparkle, and then the lights will be shut off. In the winter time, the sun may set a little bit earlier, and just keep in mind, once it's fully dark, that next hour is when the sparkle happens. Another tip is really important. If you've never been to Europe before, a lot of the bathrooms you will have to pay to get in. If it's like a public bathroom on the street, a lot of stores will not have a public bathroom. So my tip is to use the bathroom before you leave your hotel room. Even if you don't have to use it, just try anyway. You can also go to certain cafes, pay for a drink or a pastry or something, and use their bathroom there. That's also a good idea, especially if you're starting to get hungry. It'll only be a few more euros to pay for a drink and go to the bathroom than it is to pay for the public bathrooms. Also, those public bathrooms are kind of few and far between, so just try to be smart about when you use the restroom. This one is a little bit of more my opinion, but I've heard that if you go up to the Eiffel Tower, it's really not the best view of Paris. The best view of Paris is if you go to the Sacré-Cœur, you walk all the way up the steps or take the little tram that they have and see the view of Paris. That is one of the best views, and it's free to go to if you don't go in the basilica. But really avoid paying that fee to go up to the Eiffel Tower unless it's a really bucket list item for you. I think it's really awesome just to see the Eiffel Tower on the lawn or around the area instead of going all the way up. My next tip, do not buy a skip the line ticket for the Louvre. Honestly, the tours that make you pay for a skip the line ticket is just a scam because everyone's filed into this one line to get into the Louvre, the very front, but there is a secret way, not really secret, to get into the Louvre. If you take the metro, there is a stop that brings you right down into the Louvre, and you can just take the back way instead of going all the way up to the front and sitting in the line. My next tip, and this one is especially good for like all of Europe, try to eat at restaurants away from the major tourist spots. The restaurants near the tourist spots will be heavily priced, super high. Also, if you see an English menu outside of the restaurant, that means it's probably touristy. They're catering to tourists. Those places to go is away from tourist spots. The menu is not in English, and you will pay a fair price, and it'll be a lot better food. Do not tip at Paris restaurants. It's the law that the service has to be included in the bill. Sometimes you'll see a ticket that says tip not included. That's just them trying to get you to pay a tip. Don't worry about not being able to speak French in Paris. A lot of Parisians can speak English, and it's very common to run across someone that can speak English, but it's really respectful to know a couple of phrases. So always start off your conversations with bonjour, that's hello, You can also learn the word merci, that's thank you, or merci beaucoup is thank you very much. S'il vous plaît is please. Sortie means exit, so you'll see that at the airports or the train stations. And au revoir, I don't know if I said that correctly, but that's goodbye. For any other in-depth conversations, you can always use your Google Translate app. You can speak through the Google Translate and it'll spit it out, person talking, or you can type it in and it will translate via words. Don't always assume restaurants will be open all the time. Peak hours for restaurants in Paris are between 12 and 2 for lunch, and then around 7 o'clock for dinner. There are some restaurants that stay open, you know, long hours, especially those tourist restaurants catering to tourism. But keep in mind, maybe get an idea of the restaurants you want to eat at beforehand, and then make sure their hours are at a time that you're willing to go. And the last tip I want to give you, I know there's a ton of tips I could, explain in this video, but I wanted to keep it a little bit shorter. You cannot buy over-the-counter drugs in supermarkets. You will have to find them at pharmacies. They will have a little green cross and say pharmacy. I mean, it's spelled basically the same as our pharmacy in English, and that's where you can find over-the-counter medications, but don't expect to go into like supermarkets to find those items like you can in the USA. So I hope this was really helpful for you on your next trip to Paris, especially this summer if you're going to those Paris Olympics. Click that subscribe button if you want to see more content about Europe and other travel destinations, and leave a comment below. Do you have any other tips for visiting Paris if you've been before? Let everyone know in the comments.